Okay, there we go. Hi, thank you for joining me, having me for lunch. This is Lunch with Laura. And today we're talking about forgiving your ex is for you, not for him. I'd love to hear from you. If you're watching this live, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section, or if you're watching the tape version of this, please feel free to do that. And I'm sorry I'm inside today. It's raining. I'm usually outside. I like being outside. But anyway. All right, so we're going to be talking about today forgiveness. And anybody who knows me knows that I talk a lot about forgiveness. I've had to extend forgiveness, to a lot of people in my life. And I've needed forgiveness for things that I didn't handle very well in my past, and just things that I did when I was younger and just really didn't understand and know any better. And so I understand the real need for it and how it really is just a ticket to freedom. And so if I can save one person from going through the hell that I went through, just one more day, to save them one more day, then it's worth it. Even if I start to sound like a broken record, I apologize, but it's so important, and so many people need to be set free and have a better understanding of what forgiveness is. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, how does the world define forgiveness? Why is it that people are so opposed to forgiveness, and it's offensive to them? I'm not going to forgive them. I can't do that. And I really believe it's because the way the world defines it. Culture defines it to say forgiveness. If you forgive your ex, that means that what they did or said was okay. If you forgive them, that means that you deserved what happened to you, and that there's no consequences for your ex. That's the way the world defines it. That's the way the culture today defines forgiveness. So no wonder nobody wants to forgive. Who wants to sign up for that? Especially when you're already pissed off, right? And it offends every sense of what's good and right and moral. And so that's what my problem is about how the culture defines forgiveness. And so my thing is, especially, the culture also says not only are you to just say forgive and there's no consequences, but the culture already also says that you have to restore your ex back to their position that they had of the control and the influence that they had over your life before they hurt you. And I can't disagree with that more. And that's, to me, especially when there is a situation where there is physical abuse, that's how women who are abused get trapped and can't get free a lot of times of their situation, or they find it hard to get free of their situation. It's because they believe forgiveness means that they put themselves back in the same position where they can be harmed again. And, say for example, if you're a lady who's used to picking up your kids, from your ex's house after visitation, forgiveness says that, not only should you continue doing that, but you ought to go in the house and be alone with them by yourself, and I'm like, no, and if you don't do that by proving, you have to prove that you've forgiven them. If you don't, then, give them, put yourself in that same situation or worse, when you were hurt before, then society says, then you really haven't forgiven them. If you don't prove that you trust them again, you really haven't forgiven them. And that's just not true. That's why so many abused women find themselves, in their current cycle situation. And, they have a twisted belief about what forgiveness looks like, and they keep restoring the abuses back to the same position that they had. And the same control, and thinking that's a true act of forgiveness, and it's not. I remember, my ex always used to say to me all the time, I can never forgive so-and-so. Whoever he was talking about was usually a family member or me, or somebody who, somebody at work, I can't forgive them, because, that means that they've gotten away with it. I have to see them suffer first before I even think about, forgiving them, or think about, extending an olive branch to them. And, he just had so much bitterness and hatred, and I just saw it age him and do all kinds of bad things to him, but I'll get to in just a second. So I want you to consider this definition, or this different spin of what forgiveness means. It really means just giving up the right to feel angry about what happened, even though if you've done nothing wrong, and even if you're mad about or you're upset about what your ex did, or anybody would be upset about what your ex did. It's giving up the right to feel offended or feel angry and upset and resentment over it. Okay, so then what does that mean? That means that you don't keep rehearsing in your head, what happened. You don't keep meditating on it. You don't continue imagining what you do differently, and changing the end of the scenario and saying, this is how I would get him back. If this happened, or if I only thought to say this to him, that would have made a difference. You don't, no more calling up your friends, calling him a jerk, wishing his thing would shrivel up and fall off. None of those things, talking about, calling all kinds of names, speaking word curses over him, all those different things. You gotta lay that down. You gotta lay that down. But what it doesn't mean that you restore your ex back to the same position and influence and control that they had over their life beforehand, especially if you're dealing with a situation of abuse. You can still forgive and still file charges against them. Some people just need to go to jail, and that doesn't mean that you don't forgive them. That doesn't mean that you're still carrying around the hurt and you're not working through, whether you have to go to counseling, whatever it is. That doesn't mean that you're not doing the work that you need to do to make sure that you're healed and that you don't continue falling to the same bad cycles. You don't continue to attract the same bad type of person, that are the same way that your ex treated you. You don't want to attract that same person who has those same personality traits that your ex did. You just don't want that. And so, that doesn't mean there's no consequences for your ex. And most of the time too, if you need to file charges or if you need to file for divorce or whatever it is that you need to do to keep yourself healthy and safe, a lot of times that's the only way that they're going to really get it in their heads that it's not okay to do what they're doing. You have to change the situation. Sometimes it's got to hit them in the pocketbook. Sometimes there has to be a disruption in their life to realize, hey, this is not okay to treat me this way. This is not okay. This is not a healthy relationship. Even if there's not physical abuse, this is to say this is not a healthy relationship. And so, it's just important to do those things. And forgiveness, the way that I am suggesting that you think of it, doesn't mean that you don't go ahead and do what you need to do to keep yourself safe. And help them realize that they need to make a change in their lives. Sometimes that doesn't happen with you. Sometimes, that may happen whenever, much later on, or maybe that happens in their next relationship. God bless them. We wish them the best. But it does mean that forgiveness does mean that there are consequences. And it means that that they have some type of healthy fear or develop some type of healthy fear of doing it again, because it's going to have a bad result for them. Just because you're emotionally healed from it doesn't mean that they are. And if they're not healed from it, or in the process of getting counseling and getting healed of whatever bad behavior that they're doing, whether it's emotional abuse or physical abuse or whatever it is, or just having the same patterns of behavior that injure and damage and destroy your relationship, then he's going to continue doing it again. Or a lot of times, like what happened to me, they get worse. The behavior gets worse. They get emboldened. It's like, oh, nothing's going to happen. Hey, let me see how much further I can push this. And so they get worse. So just consider that. Forgiveness means that there are consequences. It means that a lot of times you have to make a change to help you, to keep you safe and healthy. Okay, so what happens if you don't forgive? This is important. Listen up. If you don't have your pencil and paper, put your ears on peak listening right now. Okay, so I'm no doctor. I'm not in the health field at all. I'm no doctor. But I've learned that anger and resentment releases a chemical in your body called cortisol. And cortisol is spelled Cortis, as in Sam, O-L. And cortisol makes you age prematurely. And who wants to look old? I don't want to sign up for that. So cortisol makes you age prematurely. It weakens your immune system. It attacks your nervous system. It just does bad things to you, and anger and resentment triggers the constant release of cortisol in your body. You don't want it. It's not worth it. It's not worth, holding on to all that crap and having all this stuff being released into your system that attacks your health. And not only that, but it takes a lot of energy to be angry all the time and carry all that resentment, all that weight. You're always feeling crushed and pressed down to the ground. Who wants that type of existence? That's what, holding on to anger and unforgiveness does for us. And it's they're not worth it. They're precious and all that good stuff. I'm not saying that they're not, precious human beings, like God doesn't see them as, the wonderful creations that he made, and that he has dreams on their lives that he hopes that they fulfill. And, that I hope that we get to a place where we pray for them to fulfill and walk in the calling for their lives, and turn away from all the dangerous and harmful and destructive behavior that they've been engaging in, and that they've been doing since God knows how long. A lot of times, the stuff got implanted way before they met us. The stuff got implanted in their childhood, and now it's starting to flourish and grow in our relationship. And we're like, oh, what's this yucky sewage that we're walking in? And so, holding on to rage and bitterness just keeps you in an emotional bondage. It just does. And it can physically make you sick. So, you don't want to spend all that precious time, meditating on what happened to you, because you're not focusing on the bright future that God has. All the time that you spend, rehearsing and thinking about over and over again all the muckety-muck that happened, that's time that you're not spending thinking about how you're going to advance yourself in the future, what you want your career to look like, what do you want for your kids, and how you're going to help them get there. All the positive stuff that God really wants us to spend time on, just spending time with him, just meditating on the goodness and the great plans that he has for us. And so, that's time that you never get back again. You just don't. It's never going to be, 12 o'clock on Monday, August 15th, 2016 ever again. And so we want to make sure that we want to spend our time wisely, okay, and spend our time in ways that are going to help us move forward in a healthy, emotionally healthy, and physically safe way. And so, that's what the enemy wants. He wants us to sorry about that. The enemy wants us to use up all of our time, just wasting it on meditating on garbage. And so, forgiveness is never for our exes. It's not a rubber stamp saying what they did was good and right. But, forgiveness is for us. It's the key to freedom, so that we're not carrying around all this toxic stuff. Okay. And we don't want to carry it into our next relationship. Okay. You don't want to take all this crap with you. Even if you don't want another relationship. I have a friend, her name is, I won't tell her name. I have a friend and she was married for 30 years and she's probably been divorced for about 11 years now. She's like, Laura, I don't want another boyfriend. I don't want to ever get remarried again. I'm just having with my grandkids and my kids when they come over, or I go to see them for weeks at a time. That's all I want. I never want a relationship again. And that's fine. That's fine if that's, the place that you're at in your life. But even if you don't want another relationship again, you still don't want to carry this stuff around, because it can still make you sick. Okay. So, oh, that's another thing. All right. Let me just give you a quick case in point and I'll close. Okay. I used to know a man who was in his late 50s. And he had he was married. And he had a wife, who, according to him, I didn't know her. I didn't know him back then. But according to him, he had a wife that cheated on him every chance she got. And she was open and notorious about it. The whole town knew it. Everybody he worked with knew it. Everybody he went to church with knew it. She just pretty much, as he said, just disgraced him and his community, her behavior. And, they got divorced 18 years ago. They didn't have any children together. So, he hadn't been in contact with her since they got the divorce 18 years ago, okay? But he was so bound up in hatred and resentment towards her that he was still in the same financial position he was 18 years ago when he got divorced, which was a hot mess. Not only that, but he felt like she destroyed his business and his career, so he talked about her constantly, how much he hated her and how much he wished he could do, that he could ruin her career and all this crazy stuff, and every time that he did, his face would change and this, gosh, how do I describe it? This evil demeanor would come over him, and he would just, he would literally kind of almost like morph into this, vicious, vile, just seemed like everything, this venom came out of his mouth, this acid came out of his mouth every time he talked to her. And, it was just difficult. And so, it was absolutely toxic to talk to him for any length of time. He was absolutely toxic. And, the last time that I spoke to him, and, I pray for him as the Holy Spirit leads me. The last time I spoke to him, he had a pain so bad in his gut that it started waking him up from a sound sleep just about every night. Now, I'm not saying, I can't say that, his hatred of her and his constant meditation on this crap is the cause of why he's, having this problem. But I can certainly say it sure ain't helping to get him to feel any better. And so, just don't be him, okay? Don't be him. It's not worth it. It's not worth it to carry around all of that to feel, in order to feel right and vindicated. Letting go and having a good life and living out the purpose and flourishing and watching your kids flourish and being happy and walking in peace and joy and God's love, that's your best revenge. That's what you want. That's what freedom, that's what forgiveness does for you. That's your key to freedom. It's dropping all of that weight and moving forward forward in boldness and in strength. Yes, Jen, amen. Feel free. I love to hear from you. Thanks, Jen. Absolutely. I'm glad you're finding this helpful. All right, so just closing up, you can't put that crown on your head and walk and grab hold of God's blessings if you have rage and anger and resentment in your hands. You just can't do it, okay? So just let it go, move on, and walk in the peace and the joy that you deserve, all right? So that's what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is for you. It's not for them. It's for you. Get your freedom, walk in it, walk in your authority, be the fierce, wonderful, fabulous woman that you are, that I know that you are, and that I'm rooting for you. And if you're having difficulty in letting go, there's nothing wrong with that. There are, even for me, counseling was an important part of me being able to move on. And I'm sick and tired, let me just say this really quick. I'm sick and tired of women feeling like it's a badge of shame and disgrace and honor and dishonor, saying that, that they need to go to counseling. It's almost like saying, when you have the flu, you're embarrassed and have disgrace and shame saying that you're going to the doctor because you have the flu. It's the same, for me, it's the same thing. So if you need to, go through, a couple of weeks, a couple of months of counseling, do that. Do that. It is one of the biggest blessings of my life, and I bet it will be for you too. So I love you guys. Thanks for having lunch. Continue to, enjoy the rest of your lunch today and have a great day.